We'll be just starting in a minute, Komal. Awesome, cool. I guess we have enough people to begin with. Hi, guys. I hope you're doing awesome. So, welcome to the day three of the freelance week. And today we have with us Komal. Komal, hi. So, for those of you who don't know, I'm sure you must have seen her on LinkedIn, Twitter, talking about freelancing and content writing. For those of you who don't know her, she's a freelance B2B SaaS writer, a person who has made a mark in the freelance industry and has served clients like Hotjar, Zapier, and Shopify. So, it's an honor to have you with us, Komal, today. Uh,
Hi,
yeah.
Manpreet. Thank you so much for having me here today and for this wonderful introduction as well. Very excited to speak about, building your online presence and through that attracting clients and of course any other opportunities. Super excited to begin.
Yeah. So, like, if many of you might not know that Komal is a dancer too. So, it's a great journey, Komal, from you being a dancer in college and to now being a freelancer. If you could just give some light over your journey, like, how did you reach her and everything?
Right. So definitely a very interesting journey indeed. I never planned on getting into freelancing. It was absolutely purely incidental. So I was actually looking for an internship. The pandemic had struck us all inside, and I had nothing to do. I was a dancer, a second year college student, a literature college student who had just danced her way through almost 7 to 8 years of her life, and suddenly she had to stay inside. And I had no clue about what to do next. I had done a bunch of work from home content writing internships, and I thought maybe I should pursue it further. So I started looking for some internships. Earlier, I got those internships through this platform called Internshala, but this time I wanted something which was more meaningful and that could actually contribute to my CV. So I started looking for an internship on LinkedIn. After reading a bunch of blog posts, after attending a bunch of sessions on how LinkedIn works, since a lot of people, because of the pandemic, were looking for more jobs, were looking for newer opportunities, I also started exploring LinkedIn. After a lot of recommendations, which told me to kind of start creating content and reaching out to people, I started doing that. As I started creating content, one day I got a message in my DMs asking me to write content for them on a freelance basis. Back
Mm.
then, I was so clueless that I did not even know what freelancing meant. I literally had to Google it because back then the notion of freelancing was not very common. And according to me, I had a very, very silly misconception that freelancing was for people who didn't get jobs. That was so misleading. I mean, I'm glad that got sorted. And today I can proudly say that being a freelancer is just so different than that, but otherwise that's how my journey started. So that one lead, that one message that came my way by creating content on LinkedIn literally put me on the map. It kind of did a 180 on my professional journey, from being like a very broke literature college student who just knew how to dance to being someone who actually has over 100,000 people following her on social media,
Right.
working with clients and all, right? So like just a wonderful journey, not tooting my horn, but just a very wonderful journey, and absolutely grateful to have been able to experience that, work with clients across the world, and which has been only been possible by creating content online and by building my presence on social media platforms. So at that end, and relating to what we're talking about today, the personal brand that I've built over the course of 2 years has literally like changed my life. I would say I mean, it's a cliche, but it has changed my life. So I'll go forward and say it anyway. But yeah, that's more or less what my journey has looked like.
Right. So, as you said, we're talking about personal brand attracting clients. So, what was the point in your journey you realized, or one incident that you realized that the power and importance of personal brand?
I think after I got my first lead on LinkedIn, which asked me to write content for them on a freelance basis, I realized if this was one person who's reaching out to me, perhaps there are more people who want to hire me for their writing services. Perhaps people who pay better. Perhaps people who can help me kind of explore this industry better. And so I started creating more content. As in when I started creating more content, I started getting more eyes to my profile. More leads started pouring in. And I realized that honestly, all I'm doing is I'm sitting at my home, I have an internet connection and I have a laptop and I just have a presence online. And just because of posting content on one platform, I'm getting leads, which is getting some money in my bank account, which is getting me the experience I need, which is helping me build my portfolio, which is helping me work with people across the country at that point of time, not internationally, because then I was just getting very few leads. But as in when I started doing more of that, I started getting more I think qualified leads, more opportunities, speaking opportunities, brand collaboration. So it was just a world of opportunities that had opened up just because I decided to post on a social media platform 4 or 5 days a week and kind of build from there. So I think once I started doing that regularly and started getting leads for it, it became obvious that this was something that I really could do and which could get really good results for me as a person.
Absolutely, I get your point. So before we start setting the base for the session, all of you guys, if you have any questions, you can just type in the No Mic channel, which is just above the event stage, or you can just send me an invite to be on the stage. And if you want to ask question directly to Komal. So Komal, first thing, let's start with which platform do you think works best for fetching client? I know that's very subjective, but any metrics by which we can divide it?
Definitely. So I think a lot of freelancers get confused about which platform to begin creating a personal brand on, but it entirely depends on A, your service offering, and B, the audience that you're targeting. So essentially, if I'm offering, like what I'm doing right now is I'm offering content writing services to B2B SaaS brands, right? So that audience is not present on a platform like Instagram. But I do have a presence on Instagram, but that's not for the purpose of getting clients. That's for the purpose of building a freelancing community and educating the freelancers in our country, and kind of building an engaged following, right? But when it comes to generating leads, platform like LinkedIn and Twitter have helped me better because that's where my audience lies. That's where the B2B C-suite lies, right? And that's where they come and hang out, they engage in conversations, they respond to your DMs, or generally just consume content, right? But if it was someone who was providing, let's say, Instagram specific services, maybe Instagram strategy or Reels content creation or video editing for Instagram or video editing for YouTube or graphic designing for Instagram, then it would make sense for that person to be on that platform. So essentially, your service offering and the audience you're targeting completely defines which platform you should be on. Ideally, as a general as a general response, I do recommend everyone to at least build a presence on LinkedIn. I also highly recommend Twitter. I'd say Instagram or any other platform is purely optional, but in Twitter and LinkedIn are two platforms that you should 1000% be on. You can start out with LinkedIn, then expand to Twitter, or start out with Twitter, then expand to LinkedIn. But you should definitely be on either one of these platforms. But yeah, let your service offering and your audience decide where you should be. And of course, as and when you start creating content, you start getting a response in it, you'll start analyzing if you're actually getting leads from it or not. Then you can actually make a better decision if it's actually working out for you, and then tweak your strategy accordingly.
Right. So, like talking about that, there's a question which says that how freelance video editor can build a brand and which platform would be the best to be specific.
I think you can start out with LinkedIn, like I said, and then if you want, you can also start out on Twitter. You can also start building a personal brand on both LinkedIn and Twitter simultaneously. Although I recommend starting with one and then expanding to another. But essentially on LinkedIn, you can go ahead and build your presence, optimize. You'll have to do everything from scratch, creating the profile, optimizing it for keywords, looking at what other freelance video editors, how are they using their profiles, how are they engaging, what type of content they're creating. Then you go on and you create your content buckets. You decide, okay, I'm going to talk about, let's say, video editing tips, or I'm going to break down how to actually edit a video step by step, or I'm going to break down what things people get wrong when it comes to video editing and so on, a bunch of thought leadership content, a bunch of experience backed and opinionated content. Essentially the only way to actually grow on social media is by creating content. So be it whichever service you're providing, or even if you're not a freelancer and you're currently in a full-time job, or you're currently a student, or you're currently doing an internship and you want to kind of expand into freelancing, or you generally want to build a presence on any social media platform, it's still going to benefit you, but you can only do that by actually creating content. So that's what I would recommend, but you'd have to go through the entire journey of recognizing the platform you should be on, creating the profile, optimizing that profile, doing some competitor analysis, doing some target audience research, then deciding what kind of content you should post, how much content you should post in a week, in which format should you post this content. You start connecting with people, you start engaging with people. It's an entire journey, but you at least begin by signing up on one platform today, and then you kind of figure out what to do step by step, because it's definitely a marathon and not a sprint. And personal branding is something that requires considerable effort. Like you won't really see results in, let's say, 2 months or 3 months, but you'll start seeing small wins within, let's say, the third month or the fourth month, and then smaller wins will compound into larger achievements, and you'll start seeing more considerable results through it. But it all begins from like just signing up on the platform and then giving it a go and committing at least 9 months to working on your personal brand, because that's when you'll actually see it getting you very, very good results. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Right. Okay. So we have like again a very specific question which says how to grow in SaaS niche content writing.
SaaS niche content writing. So that's a completely different question. It's about growing as a freelancer, not your personal brand. I'm not sure if this question is around personal branding or it's about generally growing as a SaaS writer,
Right.
right?
Right. So like if you have just tips for them, like if since we are talking about personal branding,
So
like yeah,
how to boost your presence as a SaaS content writer? Is that
right,
what you're asking me?
right.
Okay, so essentially, it's the exact same thing that I just kind of defined right now. You'll have to optimize your profile to make sure that you're including keywords specific to what people who are looking for SaaS writers will be kind of looking for. For example, including keywords in your about section, in your title, then creating kind of content buckets after doing some competitor analysis. So you type in on LinkedIn or maybe Twitter, whichever platform you're using, you type in keywords like SaaS writers. You see what SaaS writers are talking about, what kind of things are they posting about, which format are they posting this content on, how frequently are they posting, how are people responding to them, and you kind of note down these observations to inspire your own content plan, and then you start creating content. Essentially, being a SaaS writer myself, I would say creating thought leadership content is extremely important. That is, you create content which displays your expertise. Now, don't come at me saying that if I'm not an expert and if I've just started, then how do I actually post content? Because essentially, being on any social media platform is not about just being an expert and sharing content. It's about documenting your lessons, documenting whatever you're experiencing, whatever you're learning. Like for example, if I'm getting on this session today, I might have 10 takeaways from it and then convert it into like a thread on Twitter, a LinkedIn post, maybe a video on Instagram, and then I'll again repurpose the Instagram caption into smaller tweets. So essentially, you can take inspiration from anything that's happening in your life. So that needs to be drawn from your client experiences, from anything you learn from, by listening to a podcast, or listening to this session, or listening to another webinar, or let's say reading a book, anything practically, which is content that adds value to people, that helps them solve a problem, that helps them gain like a deeper insight into a specific topic, anything at all. But you'll only be able to understand what kind of content to create by analyzing what other people are creating content on. So essentially, start connecting with other SaaS writers and then create your own content plan, start implementing it, and as and when you do it, keep analyzing what's working for you, what's not working for you, and double down on your best, the type of content that's performing well for you, and take it from there.
Right. Awesome. So there's again a question specific to LinkedIn. What kind of content do you feel works better on LinkedIn? Is it personal? Is it informative? Or is it conversation starter?
Got it. So essentially, as a freelancer, or practically, any professional on the platform, be it like full-time folks or an entrepreneur even, There are two types of content that you need to create and that you need to balance in order to grow on LinkedIn. The first type of content is thought leadership content, content which positions you as an expert and enhances your positioning in the industry. It shares content relevant to the service you're providing as a freelancer. So, for example, if I'm providing content writing services, then I'll talk about content. If I'm providing social media management services specific to YouTube, then I'll talk about YouTube content creation, YouTube marketing, YouTube SEO, and so on. So this is content which will help me enhance my positioning in this industry. But the catch here is that this type of content will resonate with such people in your connection list on LinkedIn, but it might not get you a lot of engagement. But this is still very important because this is the kind of content that will get you leads, even though it might not get you a lot of engagement. So for example, my posts which have not gotten me, like there are posts which have gotten me like 3,000 or 8,000 likes on LinkedIn, but there are also posts which have gotten me 200 likes and almost 5 to 6 leads from it. And sometimes even those viral posts on LinkedIn don't get you a lot of leads. So first, definitely create thought leadership content that will not get you a lot of engagement, but that will get you leads. And the second type of content is inspired by your experiences. So story based content, experience based content, anything you draw from your life experiences. Maybe, for example, I once talked about how my first startup was at the age of 16, and that actually went viral. It put me on the LinkedIn map. I spoke about how I live in a family of businesses. I've spoken about client experiences, the good, bad, and ugly. So these things help people, like this help people relate with you. So essentially, if I post something specific to content writing, then content marketers and people who kind of provide content services or are engaged in content based roles, they will relate to it. But if I post content around my experiences, the good, bad, and ugly, whatever I talk about, this will kind of relate with everyone on the platform. So this will get me engagement, but again, it might not get me results. But this content is important for you to be able to get more eyes to your profile, and thus of course increase your chances of getting more opportunities. So maintain a balance between A, thought leadership content that doesn't get you a lot of engagement but does get you leads, and B, experience based personal stories that help you relate better with people, get you better engagement and eyes to your profile, but might not get you leads, but that's fine. So you need to have like a balance between both.
Right, absolutely. Okay, so like, there's a question, like if you can elaborate more on the analysis of what the type of audience or the content to write, how to like analyze it?
So that completely depends on who your audience is. So I can't tell you exactly what kind of people to add to your connection request, because that completely depends on what you're offering. So as a general rule of thumb, what I recommend is, if you're a freelancer, which we're talking about right now, or whatever you're doing right now, and based on your purpose of being on that platform, there are two kinds of people that you should connect with and kind of keep in your connection list on LinkedIn. Number one, people who are in the same industry or who are offering the same services as you. So this would mean, for example, if I'm a writer, I connect with content marketers, content writers, content editors, managing editors, heads of content, heads of marketing, and these people, right? So these people will relate to my content. I can learn from them, they can learn from me, and these are essentially people in my network that will form a part of my network. Now, B are people who can give me work, or who I would want to work in the future, right? So these might be CEOs or CMOs or entrepreneurs or VCs, or anyone that I essentially want to kind of work with in the future, or maybe even content creators or influencers, whoever I want to work with in the future. Of course, I won't pitch to them right now, but I will connect to them. Because on LinkedIn, even if you're connected with someone and you're constantly creating content, they might not engage with it. But if you're creating content consistently, one day they will look at your content and they will realize that this person is posting content on this platform every day. And if they're talking about a certain topic, let's say if I'm talking about B2B content writing, and someday an entrepreneur in my network has a requirement, and I'm posting about this content every day, even though if he's not engaging with me, he's still seeing my content, he's being nurtured by my content. So one day, if he does have a requirement around B2B content writing, I might be the person who pops into his mind, and thus he reaches out to me and becomes a client, right? So that's how the funnel works. But essentially, these are the two kinds of people you should connect with. A, people in your network who will help you expand your network, who you can learn from, who can essentially learn from you, and number two, people who you would want to work with in the future, or who you would want to get opportunities from in the future. And by analysis, I mean that whatever content you post on that platform, you cannot directionlessly post any type of content, because that would lead to stagnant growth, and we don't want that. So we don't want the approach. Like, have you ever heard of the phrase, stick, throw spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks? We don't want to do that. What we want to do is ensure that whatever time and effort we're spending on creating content on any social media platform is actually generating results, right? So what you would have to do is, if you're creating content, let's say you've created 8 pieces of content this month, at the end of the month, go back to your LinkedIn profile, create a Google sheet and see which of your posts got the best engagement rate, which of your posts got you leads. So accordingly, create like a Google sheet of your analytics, and then kind of see which kind of posts are performing best for your audience and double down on such posts. And of course, you need to still keep experimenting. Like, for example, if 1 month you only did text posts, the next month you can do a mix of text and image posts. Then the next month you can do a mix of text, image, and video posts, and so on, right? Apart from that, LinkedIn also has a bunch of other features. There are LinkedIn newsletters, there are LinkedIn audio rooms, there are LinkedIn lives, there are LinkedIn groups. So just a bunch of other options that you can explore as well to kind of engage with people. And yeah, I mean, content is just one part of building your personal brand. There are a lot of factors that come into play, but essentially this is what I would say about, kind of identifying who your audience is and connecting with them, to ensure you're kind of positioning yourself in front of the right kind of people at the right time to attract the right kind of opportunities.
Right. So, moving ahead, like, what strategies, this is a question again in the chat, what strategies do you follow when it comes to cold pitching on LinkedIn DMs or emails, so they actually end up replying and see the value we can provide?
So I personally follow a very exhaustive framework, but that gets me results. But when I tell this strategy to other people, they think that it's a lot of work, and they do end up sending generic pitches and then coming back to me again saying that, yeah, this is not working. But then again, cold pitching, just contrary to popular belief, you'll see a lot of people saying, yeah, send 50 emails in 50 days or send 30 cold DMs in 30 days. That's definitely not the way it works. Even if you send 5 DMs in a month, you should get a response to those 5 DMs, but that five DMs would require a lot of research, would require proper framework in place. So just a TLDR version of what I do to kind of, when I want to send cold outreach, although I don't send cold DMs at this moment because my pipeline is full. But when I used to do that, this is what I generally do. Ensure that they are in your network. So kind of regularly vet people, see what kind of people you want to work with, and start connecting with them. Number two, before you even reach their DMs to pitch them, make yourself visible in front of them. So engage with their content and kind of start a conversation with them just around maybe like a conversation starter, maybe their recent LinkedIn post, or maybe the achievement, this or anything, right? Start a conversation with them. Next, do some research around them. So maybe if I'm a writer, I would go on their website, I'll see if they have a blog, I'll note down any suggestions I have. Then I'll probably go on to their DMs and write a proper message that, first I'll start a conversation, and then I'll go forward and pitch to them saying that, I visited your website and I saw that you do have a blog, but essentially your blog posts are not very consistent, or maybe they're not SEO friendly, or maybe they're not readable enough, or maybe they're not valuable enough. And I'll then tell them what they're missing out on, how they can improve it, how I can bridge the gaps with my services to kind of get them from where they are to where they want to be. And then I'll include a call to action to take the conversation forward. So essentially, cold outreach, be it cold DMs or cold emails, do require a lot of research. So make sure that you're well prepared for doing cold research, and cold outreach, and you're not just winging it, because that is not going to work. You're going to waste your time, you're going to waste your efforts. And I'm saying this by experience, because I recently spoke to a freelancer who sent almost 40 emails in almost 2 weeks. And later when I spoke to her, she showed me the email that she sent, and that was absolutely purely generic, and she did not even get a single response. Why? Because it was generic. She had prepared a template, it had good content, but it was not personalized at all. So essentially, you need to research a lot, personalize, make yourself visible in front of that person, and make sure whatever you're pitching, you have a solid ground for it, be it experience, be it strong suggestions, So that's what I would recommend. So a lot of research is required for that, but if you can actually nail it, and it's not that difficult, honestly, for one person, if I want to pitch someone right now, all I need to do is put in 1 hour of research, like 1 hour of dedicated research, and then probably 15 minutes to frame that message and then just send it across. But it does require some amount of strategy to kind of nail it. But it comes with experience. So start pitching right now, start following this process, pitch, see how you get results, and then kind of identify what's not working, and again double down on what you think will work for you, and keep experimenting. So yeah.
Awesome. Like that was very, very, very value adding. One more question, like we were talking about DMs, is there any innovative way to reach out to people? Like you generally talk about Loom videos. So if you can just drill down on that.
Yeah, so people receive DMs every day. Like honestly, cold emails work really well. But if you're sending someone a cold DM because they're more active on a social media platform, first of all, Instagram is the worst platform to send cold DMs. So make sure you're not using that as a platform. LinkedIn and Twitter are 1,000 times better. And I'm saying this from experience because I once pitched someone who had almost a million a million followers on Instagram. I pitched them there. They didn't even see my message. I pitched them on LinkedIn. They saw my message and responded within an hour. So please be on LinkedIn and Twitter. I mean, like literally. But talking about new ways or like innovative ways to kind of approach people and ensure that they actually respond. Number one is to make sure that you're not just pitching them as a as a person who's just looking for work, you actually have something to add to them so they can actually invest in you. Number two, don't be a stranger. First, engage with their content, make yourself visible, possibly reply to their stories or comment on their posts, valuable comments on their posts, and then pitch to them after knowing them a little bit or kind of breaking the ice. Number three, by innovative methods, what you can do in your pitch is you can send a Loom video. So Loom is a tool that you can use to record your screen plus record yourself. So for example, if I am sending a cold email to someone and I am, let's say, an Instagram strategist, what I'll do is I'll open the Instagram profile of the person who I'm pitching to, and I'll kind of create a video saying what are the things that are really working for them, but what are the things that they can actually improve on to see better results, and how I can help them do that. So instead of like sending an email, I put a face to a name and I personalize the entire approach, and I just send them like a 60-second video detailing how exactly I can help them, which will actually enhance my chances of getting a response from them. You can also include social proof, like any numbers you've gotten for your clients, like maybe traffic or ranking or conversions or sales, anything at all. You can add that in your pitch as well. And apart from that, any testimonials you have, that you can add as well. Any particular brands you worked with, you can add this as well. So like I have personally seen that initially when I was new to writing, I generally used to introduce myself as I'm a B2B SaaS writer who specializes in writing about marketing and e-commerce. Now I'm a B2B SaaS writer specializing in creating content around marketing and e-commerce, and my clients include Hotjar, Shopify, ConvertKit, and Zapier. So that considerably improves my response rate because I've included names. And even if you've not worked with very credible names, but there are still brand names in your portfolio, I do recommend adding them to your introduction, be it on in cold emails or be it when you introduce yourself to anyone, because it kind of acts as social proof to improve your credibility as well. So yeah, just a couple of tips off the top of my head.
Cool, awesome. So, like, there's a question on automation on LinkedIn, like how to automate LinkedIn outreach to targeted audience for my personal brand. Number one, like, do you prefer automation? And then this question.
Okay, so I absolutely do not prefer automation. And in 2 years of building an audience of almost 80,000 people on LinkedIn, I've never once used automation. And I hate automation. Like, unless it's for something like email marketing or something I actually believe in, I hate automation. Like, okay, it improves your productivity, it saves time, but I believe in frameworks more than automation. So I actually do not have an answer for this because I don't know how to automate. I've never done that. I personally believe in um, kind of doing this manually because this is one thing that I never want to hire someone for, or one thing that, okay, I might invest in a writing tool, or I might invest in an editing tool, or I might invest in a designing tool to help me improve my content. But automating it is not something for me. But if that works for you, for example, scheduling or using LinkedIn Sales Navigator or Boolean search to improve your prospecting on the platform, go ahead and try that. But I personally don't have an opinion on this because I don't use it. But you can always read up about it on YouTube or watch videos on YouTube or read up about it on blog posts. But yeah, I mean, if that works for you, works for you.
Understandable.
Go ahead and try it.
Yeah, understandable. Okay, Komal. So walking towards the content ideation. So how does a content ideation process look like, other than breaking down one content for different platforms? So this is a question I'm reading out, especially at the beginning when there's not a lot of queries from the audience. So how do you ideate on the content part?
So the queries from the audience start pouring in really late. Like you can't rely on that to drive your content engine forward. So the ideation process is essentially related to your content diet. So see, you have a healthy diet, the food that you eat every day. You have a balanced diet, right? So you have carbs, you have proteins, you have blah blah blah, whatever it is you have in your diet. Then you have a content diet. So content diet essentially means the kind of content you're consuming on a daily basis, because the kind of content you consume is the kind of content you'll create. So essentially, if I want to create content around content marketing and I want to create some credible content, I will surround myself by that kind of content. So I'll attend webinars, I'll sign up for communities, I'll sign up for podcasts. I'll listen to podcasts around these topics. I'll sign up for newsletters. I'm subscribed to almost 20 newsletters around content. I will follow such people on LinkedIn, Twitter. I will attend courses or masterminds or events happening in my city where such people are present. I will start a conversation with them. So essentially, this content comes from turning on your awareness button. So my content, essentially, if you see on any platform, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, is 1000% inspired by either something I consumed or something that personally happened with me. So client conversations happening with my sister, conversations happening with my friends, conversations happening in a networking event, conversations I overheard in a metro, or I overheard in a cab, or maybe something I read in a newsletter, something I read in a book. It's definitely inspired by something or the other. Or I'm just simply scrolling on Twitter and I see something that might act as a good content idea for me. All I have to do is pick that idea and back it up with my experience and create a full-fledged post out of it. So essentially, improve your content diet and your content ideas will start pouring in. Honestly, if you surround yourself with the right kind of content, if you're subscribed to the right kind of content, the output will be great as well, and you'll never be short of ideas. The primary reason why so many creators, so many freelancers falter on consistency is A, because of burnout, and B, because they do not have enough content ideas to translate into full-fledged content pieces. So if you get that part sorted, where you're never out of content ideas because you're consuming so much relevant content, your consistency will automatically be up to speed, right? All you need is a framework to store those content ideas. Now for that, you can use Notion, you can use Airtable, you can use a simple notes app on your iPhone or whichever phone you're using, or even your laptop, right? For that matter, all you have to do is dump those ideas down, and whenever it's time for you to create content, just do it. And as in when you start creating content on one platform, you'll automatically be able to repurpose it. Like a lot of times, content that I've created, one piece of content that I've created on Instagram, I've broken it down into more pieces for Instagram only. So
Right.
essentially, once you get one idea, that can be broken down into multiple other pieces as well. So just start creating content. Honestly, these things will come along the way as well.
100%, I agree. So, okay, Komal, talking about creating content, there's like people have query, like if they don't have a particular niche, is it important to niche down on like one content pillar? Like if they're just started with content writing, just so they just talk about content writing, or
Um,
is it that they can have various pillars as well?
Definitely. So, I mean, a niche is something which comes much later in the journey. So, if I am just a writer right now, or let's say I'm just a video editor or a social media manager who's not yet decided which a platform I specialize in, I will start creating content, service specific content, not industry specific content. So, earlier when I was still exploring writing niches and I had not niched down to be like a B2B SaaS writer, I was talking about all things writing, but that was not specific to an industry. For example, earlier, if I'm picking a topic about how to write headlines for a blog post, I would just write a LinkedIn post on how to write better, more engaging headlines for a blog post. Right now, I would say how to write engaging headlines for product led content, or how to create engaging product led content. So that comes that's like more industry specific. So if you don't want to make it industry specific, that's still fine. But if you're a freelancer, you want to attract leads, or maybe you're an agency owner, maybe you're an entrepreneur trying to get users for your a product, right? Whatever service you're providing or whatever product you have, you will have to create content around which problem it solves. So I will create content around, even if I'm a generic freelance writer, not specific to an industry, I will still talk about how to write better content, more conversational content, how to persuade people to hit the purchase button, how to make the content more conversational and readable, how to make it more relatable for the readers, what not to do while creating content, what kind of content performs well, how to ensure your content is well performing, how to get content ideas, how to vet your content ideas, how to create frameworks for content production. I've like named 8 to 9 topics right now, just sitting right now. So honestly, it just depends on which service you're providing. And honestly, like, I cannot recommend this enough. The minute, not even minute, the second you improve your content diet, the output will start improving on its own. The ideas will start improving on its own. So just surround, people say you're a product of the top 5 people you're surrounded by, like something like that, right? So that's essentially true with content as well. The more good quality content you're kind of surrounded with, the more quality content you're going to produce. So yeah.
100%, 100%. I agree. Okay, so since you tapped, there's a question, the chance, since you tapped out on burnout, how do you suggest managing content creation and client work to maintain consistency and quality of work?
So essentially, if you want to be consistent with your content production while working for other clients, you'll have to make it a priority and you'll have to set up a framework for it. So that framework can be as simple as deciding that you're going to post 3 times a week on X platform and at what time you're going to post, and to kind of create a system to do that regularly, be it setting alarm reminders or whatever, or you batch create content if that works for you. If you think that during the week you're going to be super, super busy, that you won't have time to create a single piece of content, you have a lot of calls, you have a lot of tasks, you have a lot of back and forth to do, then you create content, that you invest your weekends on content creation. So invest your create your content on Sundays, sit down and create, let's say, 5 videos or 5 LinkedIn posts or 10 tweets in like one go. Batch create your content, and all you have to do during the week is publish it. So set up a framework, A. B, don't treat content creation as a separate entity than your business. So I see a lot of freelancers doing this. They treat client work as the only hours they work. For example, if I ask you, how many hours do you work in a day? You'll probably say, I work 4 hours a day. But what about the time you're spending scrolling on LinkedIn, you've spent scrolling on Twitter, you've spent shooting content, ideating content, creating it, publishing it, engaging with people? That also counts as work, because this is what's actually helping you get more work, get better quality work, get higher paying work. So essentially, make it a part of your work, make it a part of your daily routine. Because unless and until you make it a priority, that's not going to work. And today I posted about this on LinkedIn as well. We're in the middle of a session. I mean, honestly, I don't know how that's going to shape up. Even Elon Musk today, I think yesterday, he was talking about recession, because that's inevitable. It's already hit the US market, and I don't know how that'll impact the global market. But people have already started backtracking their budgets. So even freelancers are kind of, the prices are being reduced, and a lot of negotiation is taking place. Companies have fired a bunch of freelancers as well, employees as well. So recession is here. So essentially, if you want to stand out right now, building a personal brand is honestly the only way to stand out, unless and until you provide like 1000% like very, very commendable quality of work, because quality of work can be improved on. But if you're not getting leads for your business, that's not going to work out. So essentially, making it a priority for your business, like personal brand or content creation or marketing your services, whatever you term, all of these things are the same. Like it's one and the same thing. So if you're not prioritizing this, your business is essentially not going to move forward. And you're going to face dry months. That is, 1 month you may be earning $5,000, the next month you might be earning $1,000. You don't want that, right? So if you want to beat consistency as well, if you want to still be thriving in the middle of a recession, in the middle of a pandemic even, then kind of marketing yourself, you need to make that a priority. Otherwise, your business is going to see a lot of up and downs. So I mean, just make it a priority. I mean, if you're making client work a priority, make this also a priority. And the day you realize that, that's the day when you're actually going to be, super pumped to be consistent at it as well. So yeah.
Right. So I guess in the middle of the conversation, you mentioned some tools which you use. So if you can just highlight them again specifically, which tools you use for content creation specifically or making your work more streamlined.
So I use Notion for a lot of things. I use Note, like I explored this tool really, like I explored this tool almost, I think, 6 to 7 months back. Earlier, before that, I don't know how I was managing things, because Notion has been a game changer for my business, for my content creation as well. So Notion is where I plan out. I have my to-do list on Notion. I have my project management sheet on Notion. I have a client database on Notion. I have a content creation dumping sheet and a framework. I manage, like I plan out my courses and I plan out my strategies on Notion. So that's one place that where everything's centralized. So that's one. Number two, I use Trello to manage work with my writers and my clients. Number three, I use Airtable to, if I want to create a lot of pieces of content, and if I want to kind of list down, it just acts as like a replacement for like an alternative for Google Sheets. So Airtable for that. Apart from that, I'm using Grammarly to kind of proofread end of the moment things. Like if I'm posting a LinkedIn post before that, I'll quickly run it on Grammarly Premium to ensure that it doesn't have any grammar, because I don't want to spend a lot of time on that. And apart from that, other than that, tools are mostly related to SEO and writing
Right.
and all of these things. So I won't talk about that, but
Right.
essentially content creation, these are the things that I use. So yeah.
Awesome, cool. So, like, yeah, you mentioned that before as well, on how important is engagement on the social media application, LinkedIn, Twitter, to just build your personal brand. It's not just about publishing content. So if we can just drill down very specifically on engagement part, how do you engage in content? Like suppose there's a tweet, but I don't have any value to add on it. How do I still engage with the tweet, or is necessary to engage with that tweet then, or a
So
post?
essentially, you won't be able to engage with every piece of content that comes in front of you, be it on Instagram, be it on LinkedIn, like general human behavior, right? So even if you're not
Right.
doing work and you're generally scrolling on Instagram, you won't like every one of those reels or every one of those posts that come your way, be it from a public profile, be it from a celebrity. You won't like every one of them, right? So you will engage selectively. But when it comes to engaging on a professional level, it needs to be more conscious. It's need to be more effort based. So a lot of times I've gotten leads on LinkedIn through like a comment I made on a second connections post. I mean, you'll be surprised to know how lead generation works on LinkedIn, because it works in very surprising ways. So honestly, you need to be kind of you need to be at your best game at all times, truly. So when it comes to engagement, a general rule of thumb, if you don't engage with people, people don't engage with you. So if you're not kind of commenting on people's posts, if you're not starting conversations with them, if you're just a person who consumes the content, if you're just connected to them and you're like a passive connection to them, either you're going to be removed from their list, or they're not going to kind of engage with you, which is like a lose lose on both ends. So to tackle that, just make sure that you have quality people in your network. I mean, people who do add value to you, so you can also add value to them. It's a two-way street, not a one-way street. Number two, make sure that you are adding valuable stuff to people's posts. Like I said, you can't engage with everyone, but when you do see a valuable post, maybe a tweet, maybe an Instagram post, or maybe even a LinkedIn post, then make sure that you're adding some value to it, and not like I recently tweeted about this too, that it's 2022, so you can't go on and comment like I agree or well said or thank you for posting this, because that's useless. So you do need to add something, maybe a takeaway from the post, or maybe what you want to add to it, or maybe a favorite point from that post, anything at all. Just add value to people, or just add your own opinion or experience about it to kind of, again, engage better. You can also take conversations from like a post can turn into a conversation in the DMs. A comment can turn into a conversation in the DMs. So you actually need to start doing it to be able to identify how it actually works or how it gets you results. Because honestly, it's my network that has actually gotten me a lot of opportunities that I otherwise might not have been able to get. For example, two of my biggest clients, the biggest names which have gotten me more projects, Zapier and Shopify, two giants when it comes to SaaS. Both of these brands are both of these brands I got as clients through referrals from other writers. Now that was possible only because I was on, in conversation with them. I used to engage with their content. I used to talk to them in the DMs. She used to help me. I used to help them. So that's the way it works, right? Like I said, two-way street. So you start engaging with people genuinely, not out of course, not out of a greed of getting like a referral from them, but anyway, just engaging with them, adding value, asking questions, engaging in conversations, taking the conversation off platform, meeting in real life, and so on. That's how your network actually develops, right? So essentially, post like commenting on people's posts is just one aspect of networking. Keep doing it regularly, keep showing up, appreciate them, support them in their failures, check up on them, message them, kind of just engage with people genuinely, and honestly it'll pay you back in a lot of ways. Not that you're doing it for the motive of getting paid back, but it will pay you back in many. I mean, can't even stress on the importance of networking, but it'll reward you in many ways. So yeah.
100%. I agree. I agree. So there was a very short question in the chat, but yet very subjective, but a good question. When we say quality content or good content, what do we mean by that?
Right. So great question. Now, quality content is something that adds value to people. It either entertains them, it either educates them, or it either engages them. Examples of such type of content: number one, entertains them. Anything that's related to art, comedy, of course, comedy, laughter, same thing, dancing, music, travel, anything, inspiration that's entertaining them, educating. You're helping them solve a problem, you're solving a pain point, you're clearing their doubts, you're clearing a misconception, you're helping them learn something new, you're helping them grow in their professional or personal life. That's educational content. Or three, engaging content. For example, quizzes, polls, interactive content that's helping you be more engaged, and that's helping you inculcate an audience that's more engaged. That's not passive audience, but that's an engaged audience. There's a difference between the two. So essentially, quality content is the two things that I talked about before. It either educates people or it entertains people. If your piece of content kind of if your piece of content matches any of these criteria, then it's a good piece of content. And essentially, as in when you get feedback from people, if you don't just take it as passive feedback, like for example, if people are appreciating or people are posting something, commenting on your post, or people are making an effort to reach out to you in the DMs and telling you they like this about the post or they don't like this about the post, because people will talk. Right? If they're telling you something, then take it up as feedback and use it to kind of improve your writing. Regularly also ask your audience, are they liking your post? What more do they want to learn from you, and so on. So that will also help you build an engaged community, interact with your audience on a personal level, and thus invite more engagement, and at the same time ensure that you do a quality check on your content, right? And then again, there's this measure of asking experts in your industry if the kind of content you're creating is right, or if you should iterate on your strategy and kind of do something more. So of course all these things can help you kind of identify if the piece of content you're creating is actually quality, or if you're headed towards it, or what you should do to kind of improve the kind of value it adds to people.
Absolutely. Okay, so there's one more question which is on management only. How do you recommend streamlining the work with clients in terms of reviews or feedback so there's not ton of work back forth?
Right. So very good question again. Two things I'll say here. Number one, make sure that you actually three things. Okay. So number one, make sure that you're getting all the information you can in the first communication, which means that there needs to be a detailed brief in place, which means if I'm a content writer, if I'm a graphic designer, if I'm a marketer, I'm providing any sort of service, there does need to be a brief for it. So like a brief which details out the minutest of things. Like for example, if I'm a writer, I know, because I've spoken to a lot of writers who still don't work with briefs. Like my briefs are so comprehensive that it includes everything from which funnel stage am I catering to, what action should the reader take from this particular blog post, what kind of pain points do these users have, what kind of tonality I should follow, what kind of language I should use, should I use GIFs or not, should I use screen recordings or not, and so on, right? So that's how specific it needs to be. You need to have every piece of information you can about before you start working on anything that you're doing, like any sort of project. So make sure there's a brief, and don't be afraid to ask questions from your clients for clarifying, because that will only improve you. That will only help you improve your quality of work and help you help your client get better results, which is essentially what it means by being a freelancer. You're not just like, my approach of being a freelancer is not to be just another contract worker who's just getting money every month in their account, but to be a genuine partner and extension to their full-time team, someone they really respect and value. So partner, not a mere contractor or a freelancer, right? So in order to be able to do that, just ensure that you're asking the right set of questions and everything. Number two, keep a limit to the number of edits you're offering. If you're a freelancer, of course, any sort of edits you're offering, be it on designing, be it on copy iteration or content iteration edits, make sure that you have a limit to that, and that will considerably reduce if you're keeping briefs in place. Because if you have everything right in the first go, like if you have all the information you need and you're actually following that, then the number of edits will considerably reduce to none, actually. And the last thing is, whenever you get feedback from clients, which you're bound to get in the first few tries, because every client, every company, every individual works in a very different manner. When you do get feedback, make sure, and I tweeted about this recently too, create a feedback management sheet for each client. So on Notion, I have this. I provide such templates in my bootcamp as well. But create a feedback management sheet where, be it on Notion, be it on Google Docs, Airtable, wherever you want to maintain it, but just create a different document or a file or a folder for each client, where whenever you get comments from them, whenever you get feedback from them, be it good or bad, just store it there and make sure you follow it as a checklist the next time you're submitting work to them, which will again act as like a measure to reduce the number of edits and reduce the back and forth. So yeah, and in order to kind of also minimize communication, minimize those impromptu calls or the need to get on a quick call, in order to reduce that, make sure you're using a project management tool. I'm actually writing a piece about it for Zapier as well. Get into the habit of doing asynchronous communication. So asynchronous communication is the type of communication that doesn't require the person to be live. So you don't have to always get on a call. You don't always have to be ready to get on a quick call, right? So everything can happen on text. It can happen on Loom videos. It can happen on Slack, whichever channel you're using. It can happen on through frameworks like a project management tool. So kind of set such systems in place so you don't have to do that back and forth. If I am very honest, and I'll be brutally honest with you, this is the month of June and it's 22nd June today. My calendar only had one call this month, and that was not even with a client. That was a networking call with someone. So I sometimes don't even do a single call in a month because all of my communication is asynchronous. So just kind of set frameworks in place to avoid edits, to avoid unnecessary communication, and make sure your client is on board with that by highlighting why it can help them, it can help you. And yeah, that's the way it works.
Right. So, like in the conversation, like you've stressed upon on the fact of having a healthy content diet. So, if people you would suggest people to follow online, some people you would suggest.
I think it entirely depends on your niche again. I
Right.
can't really recommend just about anyone. I mean,
So,
there are
okay.
people who are creating very specific content. So
Yeah. So the person is asking for marketing specifically.
marketing specific, just a lot of people. I mean, where do I begin from? I'll have to open LinkedIn or something because there are just so many people. On LinkedIn, I would definitely recommend you follow John Bonini. He's the founder of Very Good Content. Then I would recommend you follow Chris Do. He's the CEO of Future Marketing, and his videos are just out of this world. I recommend you follow Dave Goddard. And there's just a lot of people. I mean, you can go ahead and kind of see Harry Dry. You can go ahead and kind of see what kind of people I engage with on my LinkedIn. You can see it on my activity feed, and you'll be able to see what kind of people I engage with. And those are essentially in the marketing world only. But there are just a lot of people who create content on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. Like, I can't actually say a lot of names. So for example, on Twitter, I would say definitely follow Sahil Bloom, follow Dave Goddard again, follow Chris Do again. On Twitter, just a lot of people, right? Brooklyn Nash, I would recommend you follow him as well. Just a lot of people on all of these platforms who create marketing specific content. There are a lot of communities also where all of these experts engage in one-on-one conversations. So find such communities. So honestly, research and you'll find such people, right? Even if you type in the keyword marketing on Twitter or LinkedIn, you'll find people are creating content around it and you can then follow them, right? So do your own research, create your own content diet, and consciously create it. Like, don't just let it form on its own, but consciously create it, because that ultimately determines the output of your content. So yeah.
Right, right, absolutely. So there's one person who has raised the hand. Komal, can you just take a quick one question? Like the person wants to come on the stage.
Sure.
Yeah. Pooja, I'm sending you the invite. You can just come on the stage and ask. Pooja, if you're there, I have sent you an invite. Oh, I believe that she's not there. Okay, awesome. I guess we don't have any more questions. Okay, there's one last question saying nowadays everyone is a content creator and the meaning of content creation is slowly spoiled. So, could you just explain what really is a content creator?
So essentially, why there are so many content creators? I mean, there are two ways to look at it. A, yeah, there are too many content creators. I mean, what is even the sense of creating content? B, why are there so many content creators? So I'll focus on the why. Why there are so many content creators is because the amount of opportunities that content creation opens. I mean, think about it. Why are there so many content creators? Because the amount of opportunities that they're getting because of content creation is immense. I mean, if I don't even talk about educational content for a minute, the creator economy, and guys, there's a difference between creators and influencers, so I'll just kind of distinguish that. But when I talk about creators are reaching new heights. I mean, they're collaborating with brands that, I mean, who have the billion-dollar status or who have made a mark. I mean, Meta recently kind of collaborated with this um, Bollywood movie that's kind of releasing on Friday, I think. Jug Jug Jio. They collaborated with that movie and they invited creators to create content, like creators, not influencers, creators to create content with Varun Dhawan and Kiara Advani to promote their movies. I've seen content creators go from, I don't know, being like a normal person who's sitting at their home in Mumbai or Delhi and being invited to conferences in Singapore, getting opportunities or getting funding from someone sitting in Silicon Valley. How is that possible? That's only been possible because of content creation for them, right? So content creation essentially opens doors to a lot of opportunities. Like, I can't even stress on it. I mean, there are 48 people here, and I'll tell you this. I personally have been creating content for the past 2 years. In the course of this like during the course of this period, and by creating content, I've built an audience, right? I have gotten a lot of leads. I have definitely expanded my network a lot. I have spoken at almost 60 plus events. Being like, when I was a college student, I used to give kind of speaker sessions to other college students. How is that possible? Because of content creation. Essentially, and not to boast or anything, I just got admitted to a university in the UK and I'm going for my master's. And I did not meet the academic criteria in that university because when I was in Delhi University, which was where I did my bachelor's, I was dancing my way through that bachelor's. Like, I did not even study for a little bit, right? But I wanted to get admission into a university for a course that I really wanted to do. And there, my academic criteria did not match, but my CV and my SOP had the everything about the freelance work that I had done in the past 2 years and what I had done as a content creator, and I got admitted to that course because of that. I got acceptances to almost 8 college universities where I did not meet a criteria because of my personal brand. So essentially, content creation can take you in, I mean, it can change the course of your life like it did for mine. But essentially, to just be a content creator, all you need to do is start. You need to identify what you're good at or what you want to be known for or what you like creating content around, and just begin creating content. Don't worry about, okay, there are so many creators, okay, there are so many creators in this specific industry and everyone's creating content. Why would people consume my content? If everyone started thinking that way, if I started thinking that way, I would not have been here speaking to you guys as well, right? I would not be here like whatever I've done, right? So that would not have been possible if I gave into such things, right? So don't think
Right.
about all of this. All you need to do is care about, what you want to be known for, what you care about and want to create content around. Give your 1000% to it. Keep doing it consistently. Believe in it.
Yeah.
Genuinely engage with people and kind of start conversations and keep at it for however long you can, and it will start showing results. And just make sure you're your own authentic self. I mean, definitely be inspired by what other people are doing. Raj Shamani is doing, or Beer Biceps is doing, or mostly Sen is doing. Whatever they're doing, get inspired by them. Get inspired by creators, get inspired by influencers, get inspired by entrepreneurs. Just get inspired by them, but don't try to imitate them. So a lot of creators or freelancers, what they do is they'll see a successful person and they'll try to trace their steps. So see their journey, get inspired by their journey, take inspiration from the strategies or the steps they kind of took to reach that place, but add your own twist to it and do things your way. Don't be afraid of taking risks, don't be afraid of experimentation. I can give you all of this cliched stuff, right? But at the end, actually, this is what takes you where you want to be. So again, be your own authentic self and don't kind of care about the number of creators out there or how much competition there is there. Honestly, I say this about freelancing, but I'm also sure this is true about content creation. For freelancing, I say that the number of freelancers that are, like, the number of freelancers in India right now is nowhere close to the amount of businesses that need freelancers. So essentially, there's a place for everyone, be it a creator, be it for anything you want to do in the world. Demand बहुत ज़्यादा है. You don't have to, worry about, okay, I will not get work, or okay, no one will consume my content. That's never going to happen. Never going to happen. All you need to do is make sure you're giving your all, you're analyzing, you're consciously doing it, you're not cribbing, you're not complaining, and you're actually working hard towards it, and it'll actually happen for you, like it happens for a lot of people every day.
Absolutely can't agree more. Can't agree more. So, Komal, any last tip for the session? Like it was about building your personal brand and attracting clients. Any last sentence? Any last tip?
Just, I think my top tip was what I just said, just get inspired by people, but don't be afraid of experimenting, taking risks, take inspiration from their journeys, take inspirations from their strategies, but create your own strategies. Make sure that with every piece of content you're posting, with every bit of engagement that you're giving out, there is a piece of you inspired by it. So every piece of content I create, be it on any social media platform, there is a tinge of me in it. There's a tinge of my experience, my opinion in it. That is what makes it personal, right? So
Right.
just make sure that you're still your own authentic self when you're creating content. And yeah, all the best is what I would say, because honestly, there's a space for everyone in the creator economy. There's a place for everyone in the freelance economy or the entrepreneurship economy. Practically, there's a place for everyone. And no market is saturated anyhow. So go ahead and give it a shot, and I'm sure you won't regret it at all.
Right. In just one word, if I had to summarize the session, it was just so awesome. I can see people just appreciating you, and the amount of value this session had is just unparalleled. So, guys, like, can we have some hearts for Komal in the chat, or any of your favorite emoji? I'm sure like a lot of people stick till the end. Great retention. So, just any emoji for Komal in the chat. So, Komal, the chat is just above the event stage.
Okay.
Yeah, I know it was a crazy event. I've also shared Komal's socials there above. If you, I'll share it again. Just go follow her. She has amazing content and all these socials as well. You can reach out to her. So we're seeing a lot of arts, Komal. So I'm sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Like genuinely, thank you for being here and doing this session. It was amazing. Hoping for more conversations on Bluelearn with you. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Komal.
Thank you everyone for being here and sticking with me for an hour. Thank you, Manpreet, for inviting me. And
Yeah.
have a great Wednesday and a great week ahead. And if you ever have any questions, my socials are always open.
Yeah.
And good luck.
All the best to you too, Komal. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thanks.